9:36 on the East Coast. Yes, but we do have our bumper running. You can see that. Yep, we're recording, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter/Periscope. And our first-time guest is standing by. Oh, let's count it down. See you again. Well, good evening. Welcome to pjnet.tv. I'm your host, Coach Prasick, and it is my privilege to sit on this seat in this place called the Eagle's Nest. And Michelle Medlock Adams has made special arrangements with Father's Day coming up. She just didn't feel like an expert on that subject. But she has a friend. Michelle has one friend left, and she called upon Carlton Hughes joins us from the great state of Kentucky. Carlton, first of all, how do you know Michelle?
Michelle and I have known each other for several years through Kentucky Christian Writers Conference, which I have on my shirt here. She was a faculty member. I was a committee member and a later faculty member myself. And then we also know each other through the Blue Ridge Mountains Christian Writers Conference. And so we are, I guess, Writers Conference junkies together.
Indeed you are. Carlton, I have, I met Carlton today I think you got 20 minutes notice that you were going to be on here. And that was about, 2 hours ago at best. But you were kind enough to drop into, and I want to say a special thank you for all of you who have joined us in the pjnet.tv chat room. Carlton, is that not the best kept secret on the internet?
It's great. And I was in there earlier with your previous guest. I'd never been in that chat room before, and really great conversation, and saw a lot of people that I know, a lot of friends in there. So yes, it was awesome.
Loving it. Now, according to this depiction behind me, there's a book out there called Adventures in Fatherhood, and it says a devotional. Now it's got it's got this cartoonish look, to the illustration.
Yes.
Is this a book for grown men, young men? Tell us more.
Well, first of all, I wrote this. I have a co-author named Holland Webb, and we wrote this book together. We kind of alternate devotions, and Holland and I are both at the end of the rough part of raising our children. My kids are in their 20s, and his kids, I think, are about the same age. And so we wrote it to encourage fathers coming up in the trenches who are right in the throes. And anybody can enjoy this book, fathers like us who have kind of completed one step of the journey. But for fathers in the trenches who might recognize the stories that we tell, recognize the situations, but hopefully also recognize that the Lord is with you every step of the way.
Well, Carlton, I would estimate that there are many fathers out there. I'm among them, but not many write a book on the topic.
Right.
Why did you feel compelled to write a book on that?
How long you got, Coach? It's a little bit of a long story.
I can sit here and drink coffee and pretend to be paying attention.
All day long. Actually, I never considered myself a devotional writer until one year I was at the Blue Ridge Mountains Christian Writers Conference, and a lady got up on the last night of the conference and said, "A friend of mine just emailed me. She needs writers for a new devotional. Stop by and see me. I'll give you the information and submit something." And literally on a whim, I stopped by and I got the information, and I went back to my room. I wrote something, submitted it, and I got accepted for 10 devotions in that book. The editor recommended me for another book. I had 5 devotions in that book. She recommended me to another editor. I did 2 books with her, about 10 devotions each in 2 different books. And so I got to thinking, God, maybe I am a devotional writer. Seems like something that, I must be good at it, or you're opening doors. And so I was back at the Blue Ridge Christian Writers Conference with my agent, Kyle Young, and I just met this fellow named Holland Webb. And Kyle was sitting around talking about the needs in the industry, and he mentioned this one company who was looking for books for holidays. And he said, he looked at me and Holland and said, "Why don't you guys write something for Father's Day?" And so I believe it was that night or the next night, Holland needed a place to stay, and I had a big double room at the conference. And so I gave him a place to stay, and we set up talking most of the night, and we hatched the idea for the book right there. And then went home and wrote the samples and wrote the proposal, and toyed with the idea, the concept of us telling stories from our fatherhood journey to encourage other fathers.
Now, two questions come to mind. First of all, you said you were at this conference and you focused on Father's Day. What time of the year was it? Was it December? Was it March? You know, how was there a reasonable hope that you could write it and get it published by the upcoming Father's Day?
No, it was actually in May. The conference was in May, right
Yeah.
around the time of right a month before Father's Day. So
Okay.
we knew that it wouldn't be published that year, and it actually took, I think, 2 years. I was actually at the conference 2 years later when I got a phone call from my agent that said looks like we're going to get a contract, and then it came out the next year. So it took about 3 years from hatching the idea, doing the proposal, getting it through the publishing company, and then getting it published.
You know, Carlton, I had another question, but I'm gonna take a detour. So many people that I have met at writers' conferences, people that view our program, people that we come in contact with, are aspiring writers.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most discouraging things that they grapple with is, you mean I got to go through all this now and then this and this and 3 years later there'll be a book? That's
Amen.
too long of a journey. I can't do it. But you did.
Yes, I've been going to writers' conferences for quite a while, and I quote. I have a really good friend named Jan Watson who authored some wonderful novels, and I met her at a writers' conference. And she talks about when she first went to her first writers' conference, she printed her entire book out, had it in a big blue binder, and carried it around like her baby, and all that. And so I did that at my first writers' conference, and I just knew that I was going to sign a contract at dinner, and that book was going to be published, and I was going to be the keynote speaker the next year, and it was all going to be sunshine and rainbows. And you have to realize it's a process, but you can't give up. You can't give up. And I like to think that I'm like a bulldog. I grab a hold of something and I don't let go. And I had the dream that God planted in my heart to have a book with my name on the cover and to bless people. And I didn't let go of that dream.
So you didn't quit your day job as you were doing this for 3 years?
No. Oh, no.
Tell us about your day job.
My day job, I am a community college professor. I teach communications and journalism at Southeast Kentucky Community and Technical College.
What is Moorhead? Or what I saw all these eagle shirts. What is that? I keep hearing that.
Moorhead State is my alma mater. That's where I got my undergraduate degree. It is about an hour from Lexington in Northeast Kentucky. Go Eagles. We were the only Kentucky basketball team to go to the NCAAs this year. Yay. And so I am I'm a Moorhead State grad, but I'm also a big Moorhead State fan.
I gathered that looking at your Facebook page.
Figured that out.
Yeah. You don't need more head. You need more hair on your head, Carlton.
I definitely, and I just said in the chat with the last person who was on, I hope he doesn't ask about my hair. Here you are. For the record, I do have a new hairstyle. My wife gave me a haircut last night.
Okay. Well, I can remember those awkward pubescent years, when you're playing football and everybody's in the locker room and they're getting hair, and you know what I'm saying, and they were parading
Yes.
their masculinity around, the
Yes.
hair.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and I felt kind of bad
Yes.
because I just wasn't a hairy person. And that where I went to school made you kind of a sissy, you didn't.
Right. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Those
Yes.
people today are bald.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, yes,
You're like,
yes.
yes.
You had your turn, I have mine. And
Yes,
mine
there you
lasts
go.
longer,
There
by
you
the
go. It's your
way. So,
chance. It's your chance.
yeah, a lot of them are dead too. Not a lot, but some.
Oh,
Anyway, Carlton, the question I deferred asking was you said you did not consider yourself a devotional writer.
hmm
When God kind of put it on your heart through that
hmm
speaker that you saw. Well, what kind of writer did you think you were, and have you written any of that stuff?
I I have always been a writer, I guess, from the time I was young, and I majored. I really got the bug for journalism when I was in eighth grade. I went to a really small school that middle school and high school was combined. Jenkins Middle High School in Jenkins, Kentucky, and the high school English teacher was assigned to teach my eighth grade English class, and he looked at the things I wrote and he said, "Wow, you've got some talent. Why don't you write for the high school newspaper?" And when you're a 13-year-old boy, that's amazing. You get to write for the high school paper. You're read by tens of people every month. And
Your
so that's
your
where the writing
mom,
comes.
your dad, your
Yeah, my
brothers.
mom, my grandmother, they were all big fans. So anyway, I wrote I wrote then, and then I don't. Do you remember the old Grit newspaper?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I had a poem published in the Grit newspaper when I was 12 years old.
Well, how about that?
That is a little known fact, and I think my mother has it pressed in a book somewhere. But I had early success, I guess you would say, when I was 12 and 13 years old. Then when I went to college, I majored in journalism and broadcasting actually, and went through the grad school. And even when I started teaching, I've always been involved in the journalism side. And then about 2004, 2005, and actually I became a Christian late in life. I became a Christian in 1998, and so shortly after my second son was born. And so about a few years after that, I felt God calling me to write. I had been a newspaper columnist. I'd done a lot of journalism things, and I felt Him calling me one night just to sit down and write. And so I wrote what I thought was a novel, and I thought it was a publishable novel. So I started going to writers' conferences, and I discovered it was an unpublishable novel. And so I worked on that for a long time. Took a lot of fiction writing classes and a lot of classes about the industry. Took classes from Michelle Medlock Adams on freelancing, and I got some things published, some articles. I was in a book called Simple Little Words with Michelle Cox and Jerry B. Jenkins. Jerry B. Jenkins and I have been in the same book. Oh my goodness. But I still wasn't drawn to devotionals. I read devotionals every day, but wasn't drawn to it. And then something at that one conference when that lady got up really just pulled at me to submit something. And it's ironic that devotional was called The Wonders of Nature. And when it comes to nature, I really love the indoors and I love air conditioning. And I don't really, I don't fish, I don't hunt, I don't do any of that stuff. But God uses the foolish things of this world to confound the wise. And so He put me in a book called The Wonders of Nature. And it just kind of took off from there.
Carlton, you said you went to a very small school. How many were in your graduating class in high school?
58.
18. 18.
Wow. Whoa.
Yeah.
And I was co-valedictorian of 58 people.
Yeah, I was 15th. I graduated 15th. So we were a very, very small school. In fact,
Yeah.
I've shared before, football was the big thing. We only had 14 players. So if we wanted to
Wow.
know how
Wow.
many players were on the field,
Yeah.
we looked at the sideline.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
three over there. Must be 11 on the field.
Exactly.
It's a whole lot easier.
Exactly. One year, my school had only 16. They only fielded 16, and they called them the Mean 16.
No, yeah.
And that was one of the most successful years while I was in school. So
Mhm.
I totally understand that. Totally understand it.
Now, you said you went to college in journalism and
Yes.
and broadcasting. So we have some common interest here.
Yes.
And by the way, my goal is not to be a writer. It's to be written about. Ah, when I was in junior
There we go.
college, when I was in junior college, I was on the student government, and I
Yes.
led the charge. We actually had faculty members voting on the student government,
Wow.
and I led the charge to kick them out. and I actually got some
You left
press.
your mark,
Yeah, and
Mark.
of course I was a radical, Marxist. I mean, I was, but I still believe I did the right thing. Now if they
Yeah.
want to put two students on the governing board of the faculty, okay, but this is student government, so shouldn't
Yes.
student government be student government, not student government
Yes.
and two faculty voting members? And so so that I got written up on that, and also there were no traffic signals at any of the entrances to the campus, none. And you're trying to leave campus making a left turn, it was just very,
Hmm.
so
Yes.
I actually hatched an idea that maybe it would be a good idea to have alternate exits so that we could exit and
Ooh.
and they later did. Today there are traffic signals, and I so I think, what? So my goal is not to write it; it's to be written about, I guess, would be
Right.
anyway.
Yes. Yes. That's a good thing to do.
Journalism. Do you want to comment on your take? I'll just tee it up, and if you don't want to go there, just change the subject. Journalism has changed, buddy. It ain't what it
Yes.
used to
Yes.
be.
Yes. Exactly. Yes. Yes.
So how do
Um,
you teach journalism today? I mean, because what I call
the
journalism doesn't even exist anymore.
Exactly. The only thing I'll say is I teach it the old school way of being credible and um, being objective.
Who, what,
And
when, where,
I,
how, those things.
yes, and the basics, and that's the way I teach it. That's the way I was taught. That's the way journalism always was. That's what made me fall in love with journalism
Is there a
when I
market for
was
that?
growing up. My favorite TV show when I was a high schooler was Lou Grant. Do you remember Lou
Hmm.
Grant?
I sure do. Is there a
And
market for?
I credit Lou Grant with me being a journalism major, but I point to things like that it's we have to be objective and we have to be credible, and yes, there is a lot of really bad stuff out there.
Well, it's entertainment.
Yeah, yeah, it
It's
is, it is,
it's dramatic,
right,
but I mean, I remember the days of Walter Cronkite.
right,
You didn't, when you would watch Walter Cronkite, you would not know his political views.
right, hmm,
But I think
exactly.
two things happened in journalism. Tell me if you agree. I mean, I
Hmm.
could be wrong. Investigative journalism, the pioneers of that was Geraldo Rivera on Elvis
Hmm.
Presley's Doctor. Remember that?
Yes,
There
yeah.
was, I mean, that was the first documentary, or
Hmm.
no, investigative reporting.
Hmm.
So maybe Watergate was
Right.
the Rubicon point, the where the scales
Right.
tipped, because
Hmm.
now the media was seen as an investigative authority, a watchdog, a protector of the moral high ground.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't think it has served journalism at all.
Right,
Uh,
yeah.
it's and it's sad because I think people do have the ability, given the facts, to discern and make decisions. But given today, what is called news today
Right,
is not journalism.
right, yeah. It's
Absolutely
very
not.
different.
How
It's
about
very different.
broadcasting? What's your deal with that?
When I first went to college, that was my main major, and I had big dreams of being on television, and here I am living the dream.
45 years later.
but, but anyway, I had big
With
dreams of
tens
doing
of
that,
people watching.
and yeah, I know there are actually people watching. Hello, people in the chat.
10 of them.
But anyway, but I had big dreams of that. And Morehead State University has a great broadcasting program. They call it Convergent Media now, but they have an operational TV studio. I was the weatherman on the newscast for a long time. I hosted talk shows, you name it. I did a lot of stuff like that. And then when I graduated, TV studios were not knocking down my door to hire me. I don't know why. Why in the world not?
Well,
But anyway, and so I ended up going to graduate school and becoming a teacher. But I've always kept my toe in broadcasting and journalism. I've been a newspaper columnist. I've worked. My first job was a college in West Virginia, and I worked at the TV studio there. My college currently has had a TV studio that's been dormant for years. They've recently resurrected that, and I'm probably going to do some work with them starting in the fall. But I loved it, and I thought that was something for me. And God had other plans, but that's okay.
I'm going to tell you a story I've never told on the air.
Ooh, an exclusive.
Exclusive. When I was in the seventh, around then, 6th or 7th grade. It was the 6th grade, I remember now. It was the year that the public schools became desegregated. And I had a friend who was a geek. He was the son of a friend of my father's. And we would get not Radio Shack, back then it was Allied Electronics, catalogs, and we would get all that. Man, we were fascinated with electronics. So we actually built a radio station that broadcast at less than 250 milliwatts.
Wow.
And we put multiple repeaters down the hallways at the school. And we would start in the morning and play One Bad Apple.
How appropriate.
not Michael Jackson. It was the Jackson 5 back then.
Right, yes.
But
yes.
we had an operational radio station that we built, but it did not have to be licensed because it was less than 250 milliwatts. We just had multiple repeaters.
Right.
And we got the school to go along with it. So we were DJs in the 6th grade, 6th grade.
That's amazing. It's amazing.
Oh, and I look back, and that maverick, get around the rules, has served me well.
I believe so. I believe it has. Yes.
Broadcasting has changed too, because broadcasting, what is referred to as the terrestrial audience, the audience within the reach of their radio signal, whether it's television or radio, that's not the big audience anymore.
Right. Mm-hmm.
The internet has changed everything.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
So what do you tell your students that you're teaching? Is you're riding a dinosaur here? I mean, what do you tell them?
Most of my journalism teaching has been on the print side, although I do teach kind of a mass media survey. And in the mass media survey, we do look at that. We do look at how the internet has changed things, how, I'm sure you can remember when it was the big 3 networks and that was it.
Oh, Carlton, I remember. Hey, Dad, I'm going outside. I'm turning the antenna.
Yes.
There were 3 channels. There were 3 channels.
Yes, exactly.
And you had to go outside.
I tell the story when I was in graduate school, I didn't get cable, but I had a TV with antennas, and I put aluminum foil on the antennas. And so when it was storming, I just have to move the foil around if I wanted to watch the networks and so on. But we look at that. We look at how the media has changed, and so much of it is web-based, and we do look at that. We do discuss that, and it is a different world. It is.
Is it better?
I don't know. I get nostalgic for the olden days, I think. But more people, for better or worse, have a way to share their voice. Mm-hmm. And I think, for Christian people and Christian content like this, it's wonderful, and you can get the word out there. And I noticed you were playing some of my wacky children's videos earlier.
Our producer was, but at my
producer was. Thank you, producer. But for example, during the pandemic, I'm also a children's pastor at my church, and so during the pandemic, I couldn't meet with my kids, and so I just thought, I have a phone, I have a Facebook account, I can get out there and I can put on a wig and a funny costume and do some shtick and wrap some Bible stuff in that and reach kids. And I will tell you that did I reach the kids? Yes, but I started sharing them just on my regular Facebook page and created a YouTube channel. And I have adult fans. I was stopped at the writers conference at Blue Ridge a couple of weeks ago by one of the faculty members who said, "I can't wait for your videos to come out." And I was like, "What?" And so I think there's great power that we have. We hold it in our hands, but I've seen the power of it. There's a couple of my crazy wacky videos that I filmed during the pandemic that reached over 1,000 views on Facebook.
Wow,
and
that is good.
Me putting on a wig and acting crazy. And so I think there's great power and there's great potential. Obviously, there's people who don't.
Well, there's
view
great
it that
power
way
and
and don't use
potential
it that
for
way.
good or evil.
But there's great potential for us as Christians to get the word out there.
On a scale of 1 to 10, this is the most significant innovation in ministry since the printing press. Do you agree on a scale of 1 to 10?
I would probably give that a 7 or an 8. I mean, I think that is
All right, well, you're gone.
that is true. I mean, how we can reach people and we can for example, just sharing a prayer request.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we used to have those prayer chains and call people.
Yep.
And now, before I went on tonight, I put it in my church's messenger group.
Uh-huh.
Pray for me. I'm going live with the coach, and so and that reached 40 people in just a click. And so I think it is a powerful tool if we use it right.
Right. Well, it is powerful, but it does get down to use, and the tool is agnostic. It can be used for evil
Right.
or for good.
Yes,
The
exactly.
tool itself does not know or care. It's both ignorant and agnostic. And
Yes.
so I think that as Christians, I feel that we have a burden to use the tools at our disposal. And I'm reminded of the parable of the talents.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because there are people out there that are, in my assessment and my opinion, squandering those resources. They're posting foolishness, and that's fine. But it's like, what are you doing for the kingdom of God, of Christ?
Yes.
And they say, well, I can't. Well, actually, you can. So you've got no excuse now.
Yes.
Are you a little bit ashamed maybe of your faith?
Yeah.
Are you maybe a little scared for the first time in your life? We grew up doing the Pledge of Allegiance and opening school with prayer and things like that.
Yes.
It's a different world today.
Yes.
It was in some ways easier back then, but now we have these tools, but yet we also have the I'll call it persecution. I don't think anybody's life is being threatened, but but it's very real.
Yes, it is. It is. And I will say I'm blessed to live. I live in southeastern Kentucky. We are in the heart of the Bible Belt, and our people there are very open to discussions of Christianity and Christ. And I teach dual credit at one of the local high schools, and I think it has one of the biggest Bible clubs in the nation.
Really?
And so God's still getting in there, and there are places that are receptive to it, and I'm blessed to live in such a place.
Well, Carlton, we've been blessed, just to have you share with us tonight, and I'm sorry that we somehow have not intersected without Michelle pushing. She kind of threw us together. I mean, in a collision.
Yes, I'm glad she did.
I'm glad she did, and she also mentioned that she feels like next week she'll be able to join us here and take her regular seat and do
That's
it.
great.
But Carlton, you've done, on short notice in particular, You have really stepped up, and we're just glad to hear, what you're doing for the kingdom and your ministry, and it's just great to share with you. We've had a great time, and I hope
Yes,
that you'll
thank
come
you.
back and visit with us in the future anytime. We're
I
open
sure
all the time.
will. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you. Had a great time.
All right, Carlton. Well, folks, there you see the view high atop the Eagle's Nest, the broadcast facilities here at pjnet.tv. Oh my gosh. Well, it doesn't really matter which book we put up there now because we're done. Um, Good to see so many good folks in the chat room. I appreciate each of you, and I don't, don't always have time to just call out all the names, but it just means a lot to me when I see the fellowship there, and I always look forward as soon as I get off the air to reading through the chat. That's what I do, is cuddle up with my coffee and just kind of decompress for a little bit, because I'll be up the rest of the night working on, 3D animation, because I'm just possessed, just driven. But good things are happening, folks, and I'm just grateful to all of you who support in so many ways. And you say, well, no, I don't do anything. Well, yeah, when you come in that chat room, that's supporting our ministry and supporting the fellowship. And each of you have a part that is played in the PJNet mission, and I appreciate you. I can't do this by myself. It's team play. Before I leave, would like to challenge you to ask yourself a couple of very serious questions. And the first one is this: try to think of the boldest thing that you have ever done for Jesus Christ. And I hope it doesn't take you long, but even if it does, the next question is even more profound. How long ago was that? We only have a brief time on this earth to make a difference in the kingdom. So I hope that none of us will ever accept our answers to either of those two questions.